Well, I'm excited to chat with you guys. And, I know all of you want to be able to, create the freedom, within your agency to pick and choose what you want to do and say no, right? But, most of us are all accidental agency owners, right? So like, is everybody kind of an accidental agency owner? Like we knew how to do something cool and then we're like, someone paid us for it, right? Well, that happened to me in '99. And, one of my best friends looked like Justin Timberlake. And so I created my first website called making fun of NSYNC. And it got really popular. And then more and more people asked me to design websites for them. And that's kind of how I got started. And I didn't know anything about business or anything really. Like someone asked me to send them an invoice. I didn't even know what an invoice was. So if I can figure it out and create an 8-figure agency and sell it, all of you are golden. Like if this dude could do it, you guys are off to the races. But what I found, from the 12 years of running my agency, as well as interviewing and working with thousands of agency owners all over the world, it really comes down to a couple different systems, right? And if you go back and think about, how you got started, we were accidental. So we're just kind of, our niche that we were going after is anybody that would give us money, right? Like, it's just like, cool, just give me like, and then we're basing our whole business on word of mouth and referrals. And when you do that, your business just isn't scalable, right? Like you can get to a certain level and then you kind of just start falling off, or you start maintaining, because here's the deal with referrals, and you guys agree with me or disagree with, I think all of you agree with me, and it's fine to disagree with me. So I actually encourage it. If you guys have a different point of view, let us know. I mean, that's what masterminds are actually for. But what I believe in referrals is they'll keep giving you similar business or less business. So then as you're trying to grow your business and get to the next level, you still keep getting the same darn clients. And the only way you're going to grow is if you're able to charge the rates that actually allow you to hire more people. So basically, I drew this, okay? And it's kind of like if you take a piece of paper and you put your fist in and draw a circle around it. And if you start listing out all the crap you don't want to do on the outside, okay? Meaning you should have more stuff on the outside. Hint, like I want everybody to do this. You don't have to do this now, but I want you to do this between the next call, right? Literally draw this piece of paper, take a screenshot, right? And everything on the outside, write all the shit you don't ever want to do. And then here's all the stuff that you love doing, because I want you guys to do what you love, because you're going to do really shitty job if you hate it. And so by doing that, it enabled to me to go, oh, I don't want to talk to clients anymore. I don't want to have to do cold calls anymore. I don't want to do billing, invoicing, all the bullshit that's out there. And what I realized was I needed to transition from an owner of an agency to a CEO. And there's 5 roles, okay? And you can add a couple if you want, right? The first role is setting the vision and the direction of the agency, setting the vision and the direction of the agency and communicating it to the team. If you have focus on what you want to create and why you want to create it, now you can tell people where you want to go. And so when you start bringing on your team, like when I started working with, Ralph Burns or any of the guys that have really grown over the years, they knew exactly where they wanted to go and why they wanted to create it. And so now we have that clarity. If you want to be the best in the world at automotive, pay-per-click, right? Cool. Now you know where you want to go. But why do you want to do that? And that's what your belief is. Like my belief and our whole why of our North Star of where we're going is I wanted to create a resource I wish I had when I was running my agency. That's how we make all decisions. And I'll even tell you how this kind of calls me on my bullshit every once in a while. So my team was writing a blog post about the top marketing conferences in the world that agency owners need to know about and go to. They listed out 2 organizations I effing hate. And I was like, No way, we're not putting them on the list. They're like, Jason, this doesn't match your North Star. This is a resource that they need to know about. I'm like, you got me, put it on the damn list. I wasn't happy about it, but it allowed us to make the right decision, okay? Because picture this. Picture you're in a boat from New York going to London, and you don't tell any of your team you're going to London. But after about 5 hours, you get tired of driving the boat and you go to sleep. You say, wake me up if the boat changes direction. Well, if anybody's driven a boat or been on a boat, you know it changes course every minute. So they constantly keep waking you up. And they keep waking you up because you haven't given them the destination. It's the same thing with your employees. So if your employees are constantly coming to you to make decisions, you're handcuffing, you're building a huge prison around you. And that's not the freedom of why you created an agency. Unless everybody wants to do everything and work all the time, I don't. That's why I like taking off the summers and most of the winters and just having my team do a lot of the cool stuff. So, but you have to figure out where you want to go and why you want to do it, right? Like, what's that purpose? People will make decisions based on what you believe, because everybody that believes in what you believe in is going to be good for the organization. But I need to hire people that believe in my vision or believe in my core values. And so some of our core values is really kind of stems from my core values, like do more with less, right? Celebrate wins, share failures, learn something every day, teach people every day, right? So I can start putting people on my team that believe in this, and then I can give them the North Star of where we're going. And then it all goes back to this. You hire people for all the don'ts. All the don'ts. So if you're really good at sales, hire a project manager, hire an account manager to manage the clients. If you suck at sales, hire a salesperson, right? So you have to figure out what is your weaknesses, what is your strengths, what do you want to do? Second thing you need to do as the CEO, coach and mentor your team, and only your leadership team. Now, most of you have smaller teams, so it might be, the 4 or 5 people that you have. And you should never have over 5 direct reports. That's too many after that. All right. So if you have 10 people and all those 10 people are doing direct reports, holy shit, like put some layers in it to help out. The other thing you need to do is be the face of the agency. Okay. Number 3, face of the agency. You need to be producing content. You need to be getting on stages. You need to be getting interviewed, getting in the press. The fourth thing is assist sales. So as you're scaling and you're growing your team, you should have a salesperson helping you build that pipeline. You shouldn't be doing it all. Like Ryan Dice always would joke around with me, and I think he tells everybody else on this is like if you're doing all the sales, right? It's kind of like the doctor coming in and making you fill out the forms, getting your insurance card, right? Taking your blood pressure, weighing you. And then he's like, oh yeah, here's what you do. Like you lose credibility for that. So you should have someone to assist in sales. And then the last part is understand the financials. You don't have to be a whiz kid at Excel. Like I was a complete idiot when it comes to math, but I understood the KPIs of what I needed to do in order to understand if the agency was healthy or not. So think about your KPIs as if you're on an island and someone brought you a piece of paper and all on this piece of paper were numbers. What are the numbers that you want to know? This could be how many leads are we getting? How many sales conversations are we having? What's my accounts receivable? What's my accounts payable? What's my profit margin? Think of all those KPIs of what you want to do, and that will actually help you out. Now, when you achieve these 5 roles, you know how you're going to feel? You're going to be completely depressed. I always joke with people on that, right, when I'm speaking on stage. And the reason being is the agency does not need you for the things you used to do. They need you for the 5 roles I just went through. And the quicker you realize that, the faster you can scale and grow your agency outside of just you. Because if you guys have visions of selling your agency one day, it cannot just be you. The next thing I want to kind of tell you guys or talk to you guys about is positioning. All right. Now, hopefully I harped enough on the clarity of knowing who you're going after and why in order to figure out how do you need to position your agency. Too many people are positioning your agency everybody know who Donald Miller is, like the Story brand. He has a really cool framework, and we've been doing that for years and years, but they have an easy framework for people to follow. But it's basically like this. Think about if I'm at a conference and I come up to you and I say, hey, Brandon, I'm Jason. And then you're like, oh, I'm so-and-so, I'll be like, hey, I'm Brandon Beck. I'll be like, I don't care who you are. Let me tell you, I'm the best person in the world. I can do all this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just telling you about me. You're going to be like, screw you. You're a jerk. I don't want to talk to you. And that's what all of your agency websites look like. And I'm just critiquing. I'm not sending bad thoughts to you at all. But I feel like all agencies look like Me Too agencies, and we all look the same. It's because we all talk about the same thing, or we look at the bigger agency websites and we go, oh, we need to model this because it obviously works for them. But what you have to do is you have to model how they actually got there. And so the easiest way to change that conversation is to ask questions, right? So if you look at my website, jasonswenk.com, it will say something like, do you want to know how you can grow your agency faster? Or the freedom to pick and choose of what you want, right? And it's usually like a question, or if you go to the About page, it's something about who I help and how I help, right? Rather than, oh, do you want to know how I sold a big agency? That would be a prick move, right? And you're like, oh yeah, another, whatever. But think about how can you ask the right questions? Because if you ask questions, you're going to make them the star. And there can only be one Batman in their story. And if you make yourself Batman, they're going to be Robin. And it ain't going to work. You have to position yourself as the trusted advisor.
But what I got stuck on was I put so many hours into it that I was exhausted by the time I got there. So how do you limit that? Do you just do it? Obviously, you've got to do a bit of pre-work, like research, and then you just limit it to an hour call or something.
Yeah, you overwhelm the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Right?
And myself.
The biggest mistake people make is like, holy cow, they're paying me for something that I used to give away for free. I need to over deliver.
Yeah.
And you put literally, and I struggle with this sometimes too. Like I'll chat with you and I'll be like, and your name is Beck. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll be like,
Rebecca. Yeah.
I'll be like, Rebecca, you have 1,000 problems. I can solve them all. Here's what you need to do. Blah, 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 blah. Literally by the time you're going to be like, holy shit, I can't think. Versus what you need to do is figure out their biggest challenge and present one solution to solve that biggest challenge. And you got to hold back. And it's just, you got to give them a lobster appetizer, like a little sliver of it. And it's so delicious and they're curious what's coming next that they have to, buy the entree, right? And then the entree leads to the subscription and stuff. I don't know if you're on subscription for dinners, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You're giving away too much.
Yeah, way too much. And then I sort of had nothing probably to come back with to then go to the 8.5,
You're overwhelming.
To make it more finite and make it one project. Yeah.
If I was going to do it today, right, I would say, do you want to know, would you like me to build you a lead generation system that can get you all the amazing clients that you want? Like, this is an irresistible offer. You'd be like, hell yeah, I do. And then what I would do is I'd open up my CRM software. I use Infusionsoft, right? So I love them to death. I really don't. I'm handcuffed to them. So I open up this software, and in front of them, I would build out a wireframe or the logic. I'd be like, hey, tell me what you're doing right now. And they'd be like, I got some contact page and it goes to my email. I'm like, wow, you're a really good marketer. And then I'd say, okay, cool. Do you think we could do something a little bit more? And they'd be like, yes. And I'm not this sarcastic with them, but you guys get it, right? I'm a lot nicer too. But I'm like, hey, do you think we could build an opt-in here? And then from this opt-in, rather than just sending it to your email, what we want to do is them to digest this content. So what we want to do is we want to send them 3 emails over a week's period of time. If they open the first email, we're not going to send them the second or the third, but what we want them is to digest this. Now, if they don't digest this, we're going to send them to a separate campaign saying, I didn't digest your ebook, so stop sending him ebooks because Jason doesn't read. Send him a video or a pop-up book because he likes pretty colors or whatever it is, right? You work with him differently. But if he does digest this, take him down the path. And as we're going through this, I'm saying, what if we do this? And then by the end, we have this amazing map that they love, but they have no freaking clue of how to execute on it. So you go, would you like my help on this? And they're like, yes. And then you go build it for them.
Okay.
So that's what I would do today in order to get them in there.
So you're saying to find one small project, basically not go in strategy of the whole spectrum.
God, no. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like your prospects are going to try to lie to you, right? They're literally lying to you or they're not that educated. You need to figure out their biggest challenge and how to solve it, right? So you got to kind of figure out like, what's your biggest issue and say, tell me more, tell me more. Like I think Larry King, everybody knows who Larry King is, the CNN interviewer guy. His favorite question to ask was, tell me more. That's why it was such a big interview, because he kept getting down to the next level to uncover the real reason. So we need to figure out, like, just because they want to get on Facebook, what's the reason? I want to reach more people. What's the reason of that? Well, I'm scared to death, guys. Like I have no pipeline and I have no clue. My whole business is based on word of mouth and I don't want to go out of business. You've uncovered a real big, lever that we can pull later on, like the impact of their business, going out of business. So now, like, it's kind of like price is irrelevant to what you offer to your clients. If they say no to your price, it's because they don't understand it or they don't trust you. Because if I'm having a heart attack, I always like to ask like a husband and wife team this. I'm like, all right, if your husband's having a heart attack, are you going to tell the doctor just save his life? Are you going to ask how much it is? And they're like, well, let me think of the insurance policy, right? They're going to be like, no, save my husband's life. We'll figure it out later on. So prices are always irrelevant, and you can lose deals on prices as well. So you got to be really careful. And I'll tell you a trick to get the budget every single time. Because if I sold you a $100 Ferrari, right? And I go, Emily, I'm going to sell you a $100 Ferrari. Immediately you're going to be like, is it stolen? Is it a Matchbox car? Is it this big, right? Is it fake, right? I'm going to lose that deal. And that happened to me with a company called Berkshire Hathaway. I'd never heard of them, even though they're like one of the largest companies in the world. And I pitched like a $10,000 website and they were anticipating $300,000. So I lost that deal, which leads me to the next of like qualifying your prospects. And then I'll go through the 3 channels that we need as well, and we'll wrap up. But one of the things, if you can remember, is NBAT. Okay, I'll put this in the chat. NBAT. Whenever I'm talking to a prospect, I always need to figure out what's their need, which is the N. B is what's their budget? Are they an authority? And what's the timing? First question, the need is easy. Does it match up with what your core service is? If it doesn't, move on, pass it to a strategic partner, which is one of the channels I'll tell you about. Second is the budget. So most of you, probably, if I could guess, take a poll, 50% of you ask the budget when you talk to a prospect. Out of that 50%, maybe half of you actually get it, meaning 75% of you are doing proposals blind and not knowing going in. Whenever I'm in a room speaking, that's always the number. So what we would do is we had 2 ways to get the budget 99% of the time. The first way is I would ask, what's your budget? They do the typical BS response. I don't have a budget. Or you tell me, I'd be like, cool, I love working with people that are not concerned about a budget or don't have a budget. So we don't have to worry about money. We can test out all kinds of amazing Facebook strategies and all these outreaches. And then you just shut up. And you'll see their face kind of like yours, right? You'll be like, oh. And then you'll be like, so you do have a budget. And then what I act as like a reverse auctioneer. And And this is very important because the first number you say, they're always going to remember and they're going to forget the other ones. So I'd say, I just need to know a range that you're trying to stay around so I know if you're the right fit for me and I'm the right fit for you and what I can present to you to make sure you're happy. So are you trying to stay around and start with a really big number? Are you trying to stay around $1 million, $900,000, you know, like 200,000, 1,000, 10,000? What is it? What's the number? And then they'll tell you. And then you can go, well, how'd you come up with that budget? Well, that's what Pete in accounting told me, or I don't know, that's what I feel like we need to pay. And then you can educate them on it. Now, for the people that don't have a budget and they still don't do it, you might want to run away, or you could position the foot in the door that I told you about, that blueprint. Now, when you position the blueprint, you're just not qualifying the prospect for the blueprint because you don't care. Like, you're not making that much money on that. You want to make sure you're only doing the blueprint for people that actually can afford your rates going forward, or you're going to waste a ton of time. Remember, time is the enemy. You only have limited amount of time in the day. And I don't want you to be so busy and working with the bad people. So that's NBAT. Then after I figure out and I qualify them, then I move to what I call the 3 I's. And I'll put this in the thing as well. Issue, impact, importance.
What's the T in MBAT?
Oh, timing. So, I totally forgot authority. Thank you. Thank you for calling me on my I actually had slides put together for all of you, but I hate doing slides. So I'm not doing slides. So the A is for authority. So here's another thing. Don't, like, people, remember, prospects will lie to you. They're designed to lie. They're trained to lie to you. So they'll always say, oh yeah, I can make the decision. They're lying. And so I'd always go ask this question. I'd be like, all right, cool. So based on what you need, how does this align with the overall business objectives? Like, what's the overall business objective that you have as a company whole? A non-decision maker will have no clue. They'll look like deer in the headlights. And they'll be like, oh, you need to talk to Steve. I'll be like, who's Steve? He's the CEO. Cool. Can we get Steve on the call? Can we get Steve in the room? All right. It's an easy way to bring in that authority. T is for timing. So I did a video a while ago about Darth Vader. Yes, I have a kid's toy, but I love Darth Vader. I named my kid Luke so I could call him up and do that. Luke, but like Darth Vader would always call me up. And they would say like, hey, I want you to design this website for the Death Star, and I want it done like tomorrow. That's timing. Like, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Like, I always joke with people, and this is totally true. There's no such thing as a bad agency client. There's not. There's only a bad prospect or a bad process. And most of the time, they're a bad prospect. And if you can start eliminating them by filtering them through NBAT, like that framework, then you're not going to get that many bad clients anymore. All right. Because then you can improve your process. So need, budget, authority, and timing. Okay. Then I would move on to the 3 I's. What's your biggest issue with what you're calling me about and achieving your goals? What's the impact on your business? Remember, it's important for them to come up with impact. And then number 3 is, how important is it to them? So it would go like this. So your biggest issue, they would tell you, they'd be like, my biggest issue is lead generation. That's probably the big issue when they're talking to you about Facebook. Cool. What's the impact on your business? I have no clue, Jason. Cool. Well, let's talk about, like, how many leads are you getting now? How much are you paying for the leads? How many leads are you converting? What's your average sale? What's your lifetime value? And then you help them calculate that value and then be like, so based on what you told me, you get 10 leads. Every lead is worth $1,000. So we could make you $100,000. My math's probably off, but I think you guys get the gist. And then be like, yeah, that's actually right. So now they put a value on what you're going to solve them on a month. So now they have a $100,000 opportunity. Now I'd be like, how important would that be to add $100,000 to your bottom line every month? They'd be like, man, that's hugely important. Or if it's not, if they say, yeah, that's chump change, like you're talking to Warren Buffett, you got to go back to another challenge and figure out what's a challenge that's very important for them. because later on you can call them up. Like when you do a proposal and you send it over and then they go for crickets, right? We all send proposals, which I'll tell you what you need to do in a second. Send a proposal, you never hear from the prospect. What do? You call them up. Hey, Mr. Prospect, did you make a decision yet on the proposal? Huge mistake, right? It's a begging strategy. What you need to do is say, hey, Billy, I haven't heard from you in a while, so I presume you solved that $100,000 opportunity that I walked you through. Billy would be like, no, I didn't. Well, is that not important to you? Yeah, it's actually important. I'm glad you called, right? It's a lot better follow-up. Here's the other tip. When you're doing proposals, if you want to eliminate them going silent, stop sending the damn proposal. Review it with them. Set up a meeting to review it with them. Now, what a lot of prospects will tell you, just send it over ahead of time so I can look at it. Sorry, we don't do that. And if they're real adamant on it, say, hey, we might not be the best fit for you. I certainly understand, but let me know if you ever change your process, and we'd be happy to walk you through a proposal, because they're wasting your time. Remember, enemy is time, and we want to save this and talk to the right people. All right, the 3 channels in prospecting. Inbound, you should be producing content on at least a weekly basis. Now, I truly believe, and this is how my model works, we've been doing this for we've been producing content for over 5 years of doing this, but in the past 3 years, this is how we've been doing it. We'll produce a macro level content. This is a podcast or a major video. I think podcasting is the way that everything's going. People that listen to my podcast listen 95% of the whole way through. 95%. You tell me another medium that someone's going to listen to your crap for 45 minutes and listen to all of it. On a video, of a 3-minute video on YouTube, I may get 30%. And I'm putting thumbnails and goofy, like I'm putting monkey asses on it, and I still can't get them to watch the whole way through, right? So a podcast, here's the reason why. They can do things while they're listening to you. So as you're if you have children, like I have two young kids, and they're in swim meets and track meets, you'll watch them run for like 2 seconds, but you're waiting to run for 8 hours. What do you think I'm doing? I'm listening to podcasts. Or if I'm stuck in traffic, right? So podcasts are so powerful. So that's the inbound channel. And then what we'll do is we'll take that macro content and we'll use like a website called Headliner App. Here, I'll put this in your chat. Headliner App. I think that's it. It's a service that barely costs anything. Actually, I think it's kind of free. But you can load up, like you would basically, when some of my team listens to the show back, they'll timestamp what we call the Frank the Tank moments. So if you watched Old School, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know, when he's debating on the team and he blacks out, like sometimes I have those Frank the Tank moments, those brilliant moments. They don't happen often, but my team will find them and then they'll timestamp them. And they're like less than a minute. And so then that's what we turn into a headliner. So we'll take the podcast, we'll create a visual in Canva, and then we'll load that up in Headliner. So it gives like the visual, like the voice chatting or whatever. And it has the subtitles and a description. What, you know, the number one reason to grow your agency, here's the best strategy. And like, it makes people watch, you know, just look at what Gary V or I'm doing and you'll see, because that one piece of content can turn into 5 other pieces of content that reach a lot of people. So we're producing a ton that way. The second channel is outbound, picking up the phone and calling people or using LinkedIn. LinkedIn right now is where Facebook was 5 years ago. It is. LinkedIn is going to be huge for B2B and finding people. So what we do, like, anybody listen to the podcast, the Smart Agency Masterclass? All right, good. I love you guys. So we have our shows done until I think next year. That's how many we have recorded. So we can pick and choose the ones we want. Now, our strategy is reaching out to people on LinkedIn that run agencies of over 20 people. We'll invite them to come on the show. We'll create amazing content. That's the first goal. Second goal is to get them to ask me for help. Because after we get done the show, they'll be like, man, this is a lot of fun. And, you know, hey, Jason, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. Do you think you can help me? I'm like, yes, I can. Let's work together, right? I mean, literally, it's like that. I have clients that close 50% of the people coming on their podcast. 50%. Now, if you can get people to come to your office, don't come to your bedroom. Now, here's the funny story. That conference I went to in New York, I told everybody they should have a podcast. These three guys, I should show you a picture of these guys. They're amazing people. They come up to me after, like, we created a podcast. I'm like, all right, cool. Will you come on my podcast? I'm like, I would love to come on your podcast. And I'll come on anybody's podcast if you create it. You just let me know. I'm happy to help. And I was like, yes, I'll come on your podcast. They're like, you'll do it today? I'm like, I thought you just created it. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what are we going to do with the podcast? It's all loud. They're like, we could do it in our hotel room. I'm like, right. Like, I was creeped out. And I was like, if you watch me on Instagram stories, I was like, I did what any normal person was do. I was like, yeah, sure, let's go to the hotel. And so I like recorded on Instagram, like the hotel room in case these fuckers are going to kill me. And I'm like, here's the first podcast I did in a bedroom that's not porn, right? Like, so like, it's totally freaked out. But like, it was crazy. But like, that podcast was a lot of fun. And, you know, you'll listen to it. I'll send it out to all of you when it's done. But it was crazy. Like, do the podcast because you can chat with people that you normally won't chat with. Like, I had Gary on the show. I've had Seth Godin on the show. Like, they're not going to talk to me. Like, but I could talk to them for 45 minutes and have that great conversation. And then they have the opportunity to, you know, reach out to me. So that could be your outbound channel, like reaching out to them on LinkedIn. Third, through strategic partnerships. This is how I really grew the agency very big. And I got LegalZoom and Hitachi as clients. Find a software that is up and coming, that is going to dominate the market. And then do stuff for that software that highlights them, that makes their clients amazing. So Sitefinity and Microsoft are two examples that we did. So back in 2006, 2007, content management systems were getting really popular where people could control their websites. You know, WordPress is WordPress. Now I love WordPress. And so we could make that we could make that software do amazing things and make them look really good. And so we would go to them and be like, hey, check out some of the success stories we're using with your framework and your software. And they started highlighting us and finding those people that are going after your perfect prospect, right? So like with agencies, like my strategic partners are like software companies like, you know, HubSpot, right? Or, you know, Marketo or digital marketer, right? Like I go where, and I make them look really, really good. And then they'll send me tons of business. And here's the key. Everybody always comes up to me and they say, Jason, you have a really big list of agency owners. Can you blast out my list? I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. But if you come to me and you offer value first, we become friends, I'll do anything for you. So always remember, when you go to a strategic partner, don't ask. Make deposits before you make withdrawals. Don't rob the bank because you're going to be put in jail and no one's going to want to work with you. If you have those three channels, an inbound channel, an outbound channel, and strategic partnership channel, then you can scale way quicker. And it's like you can sit on a three-legged stool, but you're going to fall down on a one-legged stool. So cool. What questions do you have?